We had been living in our council house in England for a few months when this took place. I was 8 at the time. Our house was a setup of 12 maisonettes and the whole block was attached from door 1 all the way to door 12. It was a fairly multicultural block and we basically all knew each other. We were a family of 8, myself being the youngest. One day, there was a teenage boy who lived on our block who was part of a gang. I overheard him and a rival gang member having a heated argument. A few days after this incident, all hell broke loose on our entire block. One day, I was just hanging out on our balcony and enjoying the view, when I was suddenly alerted by one of the kids playing on the street. He warned me that around 30 gang members were approaching our block with machetes and homemade petrol bombs that they hadn't set alight to yet. My oldest brother was at work, but me and my sisters were at home at the time of the attack, but thankfully our parents were home. As the gang members approached the top of the no-through road, they began screaming and running. I could not explain how terrifying this was. We could do nothing. The gang knew that the boy lived on our block, but didn't know which number flat it was. We lived at number 1, so he would be the first to be attacked. My mum took me and my sisters into the room that was in the centre of our home, and we all hugged and began crying and praying. My dad frantically ran from window to window trying to see what was going on, all the while trying to get through to the police. Their lines were jammed. Everyone on our block was trying to call them. My dad said that they were trying to light up their petrol bombs, but they just couldn't light them up. We began to hear banging and screams at our front door, and then they began running to the back door. Our back door was made of glass, and we were sure that we were about to die. All of a sudden, they began to run away and we heard police sirens. My mum just collapsed to the ground and began crying. This was one of the most frightening experiences of my life. I'm 49 now, and I hope I never have to go through anything like that again.
This happened to me when I was 11 years old. I wasn't the best sleeper, so I would often need my mum to take me upstairs and help me get to sleep. I was at a tough age where my dark room would scare me. Luckily, my mum had the secret touch to help me. She would tuck me in, kiss me goodnight, and this would make me feel better and less scared, which made me fall asleep a lot quicker. However, one night my mum was out and my nan was taking care of me. She was sleeping downstairs. I, of course, struggled to get to sleep, so kept myself occupied until I got tired. This took some time. I think maybe it was about 10 p.m. before I decided maybe it was time to try and get some sleep. It took some time. I ended up laying on my side and found that this worked. I finally fell asleep. I remember the night quite vividly. It was a clear night sky, nice big moon. I felt safe. However, this quickly changed. I started feeling this sudden sense of terror. Suddenly, my eyes burst open. I was full of fear. I had this unsettling feeling that someone or something was watching me. I made a mistake by looking at the end of my bed. A pair of eyes, terrifying eyes, were staring back at me. I tried to move, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. I could only move my thumb a little. I was completely stuck. I did not know what was going on. This demon, I will call it, was now on the move. I could hear it moving towards me, slowly, and then moving around my room. I've never felt so helpless. Suddenly, it dropped on all fours and started hurtling towards me. I've never seen such a terrifying movement. What sort of thing moves like that? It jumped on my bed, right on top of me, and proceeded to scratch my chest, or at least that's what it felt like. I could feel the pain. Next thing I knew, I could move again. I could lift my arm, It was over. I checked my chest and found no scratches. I rushed downstairs and saw my Nana. She let me sleep with her. But when my mum came back home, I felt so much safer and was back in my bed. After talking to friends and such, I realized I had experienced sleep paralysis. The demon has not visited me again since, and I hope I never have to see those pair of eyes ever again. This story took place on a warm summer's night in Australia. I was staying at my auntie's place for the night, and we decided to take her black Labrador for a walk to the park. The park was a short 5-minute walk from her house. There was not much going on in the neighbourhood that night. It was very quiet, virtually no people around. But when we turned a corner, we walked past this van. I didn't think much of it at the time, but later on, my auntie told me she was instantly suspicious of the man in the van. The walk continued as we were about to reach the park. I was looking forward to doing some training with my auntie's dog, as he was still young and keen to learn. We reached the park, and I played fetch with the dog. I was distracted, but having a good time. However, my auntie was growing more suspicious by the minute. She noticed the van driving past, and it ended up parking on the side of the road, right near where we were playing. My auntie came over and didn't say anything about the van, but suggested we leave. We did end up walking a little bit around the park, making sure the dog got more than a 5-minute run around, but we decided it would be best to now head back home. My auntie suggested we take a quicker way back. I imagine this was to perhaps try and catch the man in the van off guard and see if we could lose track of him. We ended up going down this alley/driveway type thing. I instantly noticed there was a man sitting down in this area. I suspected the man to be homeless. He muttered something to me, and I swear I heard him say, "I think he is following you," but I may have misheard him. We continued to walk through this area, and when we reached the end, we saw something that did not belong. There was some dog food just on the ground at the end of this area. My auntie was concerned and immediately thought this could have been placed by the man in the van. Then once again, we noticed the van. He was once again parked right near us. Was he trying to put the dog to sleep, or worse, so he could get to one of us or both of us? We were not hanging around to find out. We immediately rushed home. Later that night, I was sleeping on my auntie's couch, and I started hearing suspicious noises. I swear it sounded like someone climbing the fence to get into our backyard. Then I swear I could hear someone intentionally walking slowly just outside where I was sleeping. I was frozen with fear when suddenly all hell broke loose. I summoned the courage to look outside. I wanted to know that the dog was okay. When I looked out there, I saw no man, just the dog. He was walking towards the back door, but notably, I saw blood and bloody footprints. What on earth happened out there? I would never find out. I was certain this backyard scuffle was connected to the man in the van. I'm not sure if he wanted to get to me, my auntie, or maybe it was the dog he wanted. Either way, I am now always on the lookout for the man in the van. My name is Jacob, and this incident happened about 2 years ago. I was 14 at the time, and my parents were on a weekend away in Napa Valley, California. I decided it would be a good chance to have some friends over since my parents were very strict and didn't allow me to do that type of stuff. I texted them, and in about 15 minutes, they all showed up. We had a loft upstairs, and this is where we were going to spend the night. The group was made up of me, my friend John, Dylan, Chris, and Carlos. About an hour later, I asked John if he could go get some snacks from downstairs, which he reluctantly agreed to. John was taking a little bit downstairs to bring back the snacks, but I didn't think anything of it. 5 minutes later, I heard the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard. Right away, all four of us booked it down the stairs to see what the hell just happened. When we got down there, we all froze. 3 men were standing in my kitchen, and one of them was holding John in a headlock. One man in particular gave me the creeps. I think he must have been their leader. We were all still frozen, not sure what to do, when Dylan, who was lagging behind, had caught up. He had seen John in a headlock and got furious, and suddenly he ran at the men. Then suddenly, Chris and Carlos followed. I used this time to run up the stairs and grab the 12-gauge shotgun that was sitting in my dad's room. I loaded the shells, locked the chamber, and ran back downstairs. I got down there and I saw Dylan, Chris, and Carlos bloodied and beaten on the floor. Not sure what to do, I nervously pointed the shotgun at the men. The main guy, the creep, had noticed, and he looked very displeased that I had a gun. I summoned the courage and said, "Get out of my house or I'll shoot." This, however, did not have the desired effect. 2 of the men must have thought it was funny, as they were smiling at me. Clearly talking to them was not working, and I needed to take action. I decided to take my gun and fire a warning shot into the air. I pointed the gun at them once again, and it must have had the desired effect because suddenly they were gone. I alerted my friends and let them know that it was now safe. They started picking up their bloodied bodies off the floor. I called the police along with an ambulance to come to my house. All of us were questioned, except for John, because one of the burglars had broken his arm in the scuffle he had had with the robbers. The cops called my parents, who were proud of me for standing up and protecting my friends. The men were never caught, and I know you're thinking this story is fake, but what I witnessed that night was the furthest thing from it.